Hi, everybody. Good evening. This is the second episode of the School Psych podcast, so I'm super excited to be here, and I'm glad that you guys are tuning in to watch us. As far as the agenda tonight, we've got a couple of things that we wanted to cover. We're going to be talking about ADHD strategies in the classroom. We're going to be talking about templates, report writing, and presenting reports to parents and staff members. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about NASP, because I'm sure a lot of you are gearing up for that starting very soon and are excited, and just want to have a discussion about how that's going. Before we get rolling, I'm Rachel, and just briefly, I am a specialist level school psychologist. Right now I'm working in Texas, and I'm working with high school students. As far as commenting, we definitely want everybody to be participating and interacting with us as we're doing this live broadcast. It's the main goal of the School Psych podcast. So we've got a couple ways for you to do that. It's going to be through Twitter with the hashtag psychedpodcast. It's going to be through the Facebook page and those feeds there. And also hopefully through the Google Plus page. There should be a way to put some comments in there. So Rebecca, our friend over here, is going to be kind of watching those feeds and chiming in when you guys have comments and questions and suggestions. So that being said, I'm going to turn it over for introductions to Rebecca. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi. Okay, I'm Rebecca, and I am I'm a certified school psychologist in Connecticut. It works a little differently here. We don't have that specialist tag, but I work in a pre-K through 12 independent private school, and I just love my job. I'm an early career school psych. I'm on my second year, very proudly, so I'm halfway through. I'm excited, and I wanted to talk. Should I go right into ADHD interventions?
Well, we're going to introduce Anna.
Sorry, I'm actually really nervous this time because, you know, I'm hoping that you guys will watch and participate, but that also makes me nervous. But so Anna, why don't you introduce yourself and then I'll go.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm also a school psychologist. I work in a special education BOCES setting in New York State. I work with middle and high school age students. So ADHD, let's get started. Rebecca, you want to start us off?
Yes, I do. I'm just opening my Twitter search so I can make sure. If you're on Twitter and you'd like to comment your favorite ADHD strategies or experiences, just use the hashtag psychedpodcast and we will find you. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today is how I would go about helping a teacher who says to me, I have this student who has ADHD and I want to support them and help them. So I'm going to do a little screen share here and show you what I was thinking of. These 1 through 8, can you guys see them?
It's not coming up on my end.
No? Oops, sorry. Let me see. Screen share. Nope. Okay. Got it? You guys see that?
Oh, there it is.
Okay. So these 1 through 8 come from Dr. Russ Barkley, who I actually tagged his website on School Psyched and the podcast page today. He has a lot of ADHD resources and research, and these are the 8 kind of guidelines that he suggests for any classroom accommodations. I think they're important to keep in mind. I like Dr. Barkley. I know he's a little bit controversial. I'd love to hear what you guys think of his work. But I love the way he breaks down exactly what's going on in a student with ADHD in the way that their brain functions. So I like these 8 guidelines to keep in mind. What I normally do as far as a behavior plan is, first, if the child is old enough, I like to get them involved. So I will ask them to come in and talk about how school is going, what is great, and what might be improved. I find most of the time kids know when they are having a hard time with something. And they come up with great goals. And when it's driven by them, I feel like it's much easier to support them in achieving those goals. So, for example, I have a child come in, I'll ask them how things are going, and they'll say, you know, things are going okay, but I seem to get in trouble because the teacher's always telling me that I need to sit up straight at my desk and pay attention. So I have a conversation with the child about what would that specific behavior look like? What would you like to really see? And they'll often tell me something like, well, if I just sat up with my feet on the floor, I think then that would help me. So in that way, we come up with 3 very specific and observable goals, the child and I, and then we meet with the teacher and we ask for the teacher's help. And when I frame it that way as a group effort, the kids really feel like everybody on this team is helping me reach my goals, and it's a nice feeling. It's not punitive and it's not critical. It's not about what you're doing wrong and why, you know, it's not about being in trouble. It's about how can you improve. So I come up with 3 with the student, and then I usually work with the teacher on how they can support that goal. So for example, if it's sitting up straight with your feet on the floor, I'll ask the teacher to mark that down maybe 3 different periods of the day or 3 different subjects or 3 different times, either yes or no. You know, Johnny sat with his feet on the floor and eyes on the speaker, either yes or no, during English, during math, during, you know, after lunch. And over time, I collect that data and I show the student as well. And usually I add with no more than maybe start with 2 reminders or 3 reminders. And so as the student gets better at sort of self-monitoring, then I make the reminders fewer. So it starts out with 3 reminders, and then we say, oh, John, you're doing so well. Let's have the teacher remind you now only twice, or maybe twice verbally and once with a hand signal, like, you know, eyes on me. And in that way, I found that kids are so impressed with the success that they can have, and often we achieve those goals and then we move on to different goals. Okay, now Johnny, you're really doing so well with having your feet on your floor and eyes on the teacher. What could be next? You know, knowing the next 3 things that I have to do, making a visual schedule. So that I find to be a really nice intervention behavior plan for a child with ADHD. I think that's all I have.
Very cool. All right, I can talk a little bit about some of the things that I do. I think that it's really important as a school psychologist to kind of have in your bag of tricks a lot of ways to, you know, strategies for children with ADHD, just because, I mean, if any of you guys sit in on intervention teams, so often you're going to get teachers coming to those intervention teams saying, oh my gosh, this child cannot sit still, or this child cannot, you know, focus on anything. They're constantly off task. I mean, having worked at an elementary school for some time, that was just basically a constant referral concern. And so I've kind of developed a whole long list of strategies that, okay, did you try this? Have you tried this? Have you done that? And I just kind of go down this laundry list and just I don't control my variables often very much. I'm throwing kind of accommodations and modifications and strategies at the teacher. I'm like, try this, try this, try this, just to try and get some sort of improvement going on, you know, before even I'm getting down into the nitty-gritty and working individually on, okay, what works for this particular student. First, I'm trying kind of those tier 1 interventions. So some of the things that I've seen, and this works especially with elementary age student, is the tape on the floor. So you can get kind of cool, trendy looking duct tape and tape around their desk, and that can be their spot. And so that would work for a child that is up out of the seat a lot and bothering other students. If you explain to them that this is your area, you know, explain it as a good thing, as it's not, you're not in timeout or anything like that, but this is your personal area, this is your personal space. If you need to leave there, you need to raise your hand, and you can practice, you know, how do we raise our hand? Let's model it, let's practice that. So we're sure that they understand. And just having that spatial boundary and that reminder works really well, I found, with elementary students. And same thing with putting like an X with the tape on the carpet where they're supposed to sit to make sure that they're not up and moving around. That might be an intervention that you sometimes run by parents, because you don't want a parent coming in necessarily to the classroom and seeing this box where their child is supposed to be sitting and getting kind of a negative impression that it is a punishment that they have to stay in the box. That wouldn't be the intention, for sure. I know that Anna's going to talk a little bit more thoroughly about fidget items, but as far as that ADHD child that needs to have some movement and have some stimulation and that sensory exposure, an easy fix is tape in some Velcro to the bottom of the desk so that they can rub the Velcro and play with the Velcro and fiddle with that, but still be engaged with the teacher. Likewise, like TheraBand. Get to know your OTs. OTs have really great resources. TheraBand is something, it's kind of like a rubber band type material that you can wrap around the legs of the chair. And so the students can sit there and kick the TheraBand while they're engaged in the lesson. And it's kind of cool to go into an elementary classroom and see all these kids kicking their TheraBand and whatnot, but they're engaged and they're sitting in their seats. But same thing with OTs can sometimes hook you up with wiggle seats and weighted objects and things that can help with that sensory input and could really be useful. So talk with your OTs about that. TheraBand and things like that are pretty cheap. You can buy a whole roll of it. It's a great strategy. You know, allowing activity breaks. We don't want our kids just sitting in their seats for long periods of time. Teachers that do that, we can run into problems with children with ADHD type behaviors. And I often say ADHD type behaviors because sometimes we have students that show a lot of those behaviors but aren't necessarily diagnosed, and then we have overlap of different conditions that can look like ADHD and comorbid things going on. So I generally talk about ADHD type behaviors when I'm dealing with a lot of this. I like response cost systems tied to rewards when we're dealing with impulsivity, so that would be oftentimes a visual where, you know, within this period, within the morning, within the day, you get 5 cars, and every time that you're calling out, I'm taking away a car, and that's a visual reminder. And if you have, you know, 1 car left at the end of the day, end of the period, end of the whatever, you get your reward. And it helps kids a lot to just have that visual. For older kids, you can, you know, 3 strikes and you're out type of thing. It can be a just a nonverbal cue from the teacher. You can do tally marks, things like that. When we're talking preferential seating, just keep in mind that that doesn't necessarily always mean putting a kid at the front of the classroom. Sometimes children with ADHD type behaviors like to sit in the back so they can see everything out in front of them, and that's something to keep in mind too, that preferential seating doesn't always mean right next to the teacher. And then briefly I wanted to go into a self-monitoring as far as I really like daily behavior report cards, check-in, check-out systems, things like that, and we've got a lot of that posted in our Google Drive, and I'll briefly show you how to access that again. But self-monitoring is good for our kids that are a little bit older, and even if you don't think that they're capable of doing it, oftentimes we don't give our kids enough credit. I've had teachers that say, oh no, he could never self-monitor that, and the child can. I went to a NASP presentation on task in a box, and I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that, and I'm not super familiar with it myself, but it's a program that involves a self-monitoring method where the student wears this device that's going to vibrate and tell them that, oh, now it's time to monitor. Are you on task or are you off task? And it lets the student be aware of what's going on. And this On Task in a Box program involved a couple different things as far as a video showing what on task and what off task looks like. It involved graphing the results, the child graphing the results. It involved a couple different aspects of it. But I went to this NASP presentation last year on it, and the researchers that were looking at this program kind of broke it down to see what was effective about it. And one of the things that they found was that you can get an effect, a positive effect, with just a video. So what I've done is I've paired up with a teacher that is pretty good at technology and video recording, and with that teacher make a video of, with parent permission of, here, this student, this is what they look like when they're on task. They're doing this and this and this. This is what they look like when they're off task. They're doing this, this, and this. So the student's watching that video a couple times a week as an intervention, and then during the intervention phases, they're wearing that vibrating device that, oh, now I need to mark if I'm on task or off task, and it vibrates intermittently and just allows that awareness. I looked into that device at first. It's called the Motivator, M-O-T-I-V-A-I-D-E-R. And when I looked into that, it was like $40. I was like, no, my school isn't going to spring for that. But I did find online there's an app for it where you can download it on your cell phone. And so what I had done at the time, this was at my last district, was I got the PTO to raise some awareness of my little project, and got people to donate some used cell phones that were no longer, were outdated. And so I installed the app on the cell phone, the kid put the cell phone in their pocket, and then that serves as that self-monitoring reminder. So that's another strategy that can be used. I know it's kind of a little bit throwing things together because we didn't have the resources to pay for the on task in a box. And if you guys are watching and have used that program, let me know if you've seen positive results with it, because I'm kind of curious as to how that stacks up to my little thrown together intervention kind of modeled after that. But
Rachel, your list of go-to interventions, do you have that typed up anywhere? Is that on the ADHD?
I do. And I can share that for us right now if I can figure out how to do that. Let's see. The screen. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this. So this is our Google Drive, and we've got links posted to this on the Facebook page and the Google Plus page. And you can just sign on and see kind of these are the areas that we have some resources in. And the point of the Google Drive would be to have you guys add things that are useful and to take things that you think are useful. So if we go into the ADHD folder, we've got strategies, information, assessment, observations. So I think under strategies, this is kind of my little go-to list right here that I sometimes go to. So you guys can pull that up and look at that. There's some PDFs and some resources here. And what's great about Google Drive is you can add things. So say, you've got some websites that are useful. You can go and write in here and type in your websites, and other people can see that. It'll save it. So that's really neat. So please add to our resources and let us know what you think about that. Right, I'm going to go back here. Okay. I know that was kind of quick, but I'd like to hear from viewers more so than myself rambling. Anna?
That was helpful. Okay, so I work with kids with autism and developmental disabilities and some comorbidity with ADHD. So what works with my population is different. We use a program called Boardmaker where I work, and we use a lot of visuals because I have kids with language processing, language difficulties, nonverbal students that I work with who don't understand and don't respond as well to verbal reminders. So here's a few pictures from Boardmaker as an example. So we've got the quiet and the raise your hand reminder and also the no talking. So these are something, if you just Google Boardmaker and you Google like quiet sign, that kind of thing, you can find images like this. Even if you don't have the program, you can find all sorts of like visual cues, pictures, what works for the student. It might be an actual picture of the student sitting in their desk as a reminder, this is what I need you to do. Or it might be a picture symbol like this. It really depends what works for the student. Some of my kids, they don't comprehend this cognitively, so they need real pictures. And so it really depends what works for you. But we tape these to students' desks, things like this, as a reminder of the rules. That way you can just point to the reminder. We also have like a larger version of this because sometimes kids need to learn, like, it's not time to vocalize right now, it's instruction time. And this is another one that I got on just from Googling, of the classroom rules paired with visuals. So I find these pictures really helpful as ways to help our kids be more focused. And a lot of times a point to that picture is paired with this, and it's also sometimes they have more of a reinforcement system, like earning stars, earning stickers, that kind of thing, when they are quiet during instruction or during work time. Those are the kinds of things that we work on in my setting.
Very cool. All right. I was hoping for some comments, but I don't think we've seen any yet, right, Rebecca?
No, we haven't. Well, we have a couple of positive retweets on Twitter, but no additions really, or comments. I think a lot of people are traveling, so I know that I've had some really kind comments on the Facebook pages about people who are going to be missing our live broadcast but hope to tune in and comment later. So I would love to hear from you guys. What works? What did you learn in grad school? What did you try that didn't work? All of that could be really helpful to all of us. So I'm hoping that there will be comments eventually.
All right. But we can move on, I guess, to our next topic. We can come back if somebody does pipe in with some comments or questions. But our next topic was going to be about templates, report writing, and just basically presenting reports to staff and parents. So we kind of wanted to have a discussion about that. I wanted to know how you guys go about to, like when you've done an evaluation, are you sending home the evaluation with the student? Are you mailing it? Are you meeting with the parents before meeting time? Like what you guys typically do for that? Because I kind of struggle with that as far as, do I need to have a pre-conference with a parent or not?
Well, sorry, I was checking the the other pages, so I got distracted. But I always like to be in communication with parents. So I never want to enter a meeting where there are going to be big surprises. So either knowing the communication between the teachers and the parent. I think it's important to have that team approach at every step. So I never feel like I'm going to walk into a meeting and there are going to be some big surprises. I think hopefully that answers your question. But when I'm reporting, I find it really helpful to focus on the practical, the recommendations, and how the strengths can support the weaknesses. I know we're going to get into exactly how report styles for each of us. Do you guys feel the same way about presenting to parents and you know, having some parents? I have been really lucky to find my parents really involved, so I'm able to communicate with them. I've never had the situation where I can't get in touch with the parent or I can't communicate well with them, and then there's an appointment for a meeting. But I know that happens, you know, often, you know, really busy working parents, it's hard to get them. So I can imagine times when sometimes things would be a surprise to them. Have you guys had those kinds of experiences?
Yeah, I've had more varied experiences. You know, it depends what kind of evaluation you're doing. If it's an initial evaluation, if you're the first person to put eyes on the student, you know, you're going to want to have a good conversation with that parent. I've had times where I've tried to meet with a parent on multiple occasions and they haven't been able to make it. So sometimes you don't get the face-to-face. Sometimes it's just a phone conversation. And then I like to have I have a normal curve that sometimes I use with the parents when presenting the results, because sometimes parents might have an idea of their child and where they're going, and the child might have an intellectual disability and might have significant learning challenges and some things that are really getting in the way of their doing well and being successful, and maybe they're not even going to earn a high school diploma. And, you know, the parent kind of needs to visually see where their test results are at, kind of thing. So it really depends. Sometimes there's hard conversations that have to occur, and sometimes don't occur until the CSE meeting. It depends. But I always like to check in and see if they received the report. I don't do the mailing personally. That's done by my don't know, in the administration building that I don't actually work in. There's kind of a paperwork process, and it usually takes at least a week before when I send the report out and when the parent actually gets it in their hands. So I have to call and see if they got it, and go over it briefly with them and see if they have questions and that kind of thing. Because you really don't want to be surprised at a CSE meeting. But some of the kids, like this is the 8th, maybe not 8th, but they're evaluated every 3 years in our state, and they know where their child is at, and then it's very, very brief, and you go over it briefly in a CSE, but you don't really have to go into detail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm always nervous about sending a report home for a parent to read on their own, just because I want to be there to go through it with them. I don't want them to misinterpret anything that's in there. I know that our reports can sometimes, and I try not to use a lot of jargon, but there is a fair amount of, talking about base rates and things like that in my reports that I want them to kind of have a little bit of an understanding, and so I do like to talk and meet with the parents ahead of time, for sure. But oftentimes, yeah, it's hard to get a hold of them and get them that information. And then when we're doing, an eligibility meeting, or we're going through that those results, I do want to go over that report thoroughly too, because I feel like the teachers need to be aware of what those results are. Everybody, to make informed decision, needs to have an understanding of what the evaluation says. What do you guys think of templates? I know we've gotten a lot of questions about templates at our last podcast, and I know we have some posted in the share drive. Tell me about your templates.
Okay, so I, being the most recently out of school, love a template because I relied on them so heavily. So I'm going to share the template, a basic template that I use. Oops, sorry, I don't know why. Wait, let me stop that. You guys seeing that?
It looks like a visual illusion or something.
Yeah. Okay, let me try again. Maybe I have to open it first. Okay, so yeah, here it is. When I started off, and I think my supervisor.
We're not seeing it. I don't know if.
Okay. Yeah, I'm working on opening. I shut it by accident. I'm going to open it up. Let me see. So when I started off, my supervisor actually gave me. I had 2 supervisors, and they gave me their basic templates, like the basic things that need to be included in a report, and based on the tests that I was doing. So it was the limited number of evaluations that I would do. Oh boy, let me see. Oh, technical difficulty here. Wait, sorry. So I would follow the basic template. Let me share that with you. Start. Okay. You guys seeing this?
Yep.
This is just a basic template for a WISC that I would follow. And if there were other tests, I would put them also in there, and I would have other kind of standard tables that I would use to report scores, and then a very brief, a little bit less brief than that is here. I tried to remove, all identifying information, so this is really brief, but I would talk about each index and each subtest is a little bit, and then describe scores and try to describe what that meant. But when you're starting out, it's really hard, and the discrepancy chart I find is the most challenging part of describing an evaluation, like really looking at the strengths and weaknesses and how that speaks to an individual student. But I would follow the templates and follow the protocols to try to do that and to try to explain that to parents. And now, working in an independent school, I'm going to try to share something else with you guys. I don't know what you're seeing right now, and I'm kind of concerned about it, but bear with me for a moment. Let me see. Anyway, now that I work in an independent school, I often see private evaluations. So we refer out a lot of our neuropsych assessments, and they're really comprehensive. There's lots of different kinds of assessments on there, and they you're seeing what I'm seeing, right?
I see your face.
Oh, you see my face. Okay. So they're really comprehensive, and sometimes they are really difficult to read. And I have found that parents they look at the scores and they look at the percentiles, and that's about it, because it's overwhelming and it's confusing. And of course, I cannot find the thing that I wrote up.
I think it's good to keep in mind that when we're writing reports, we're writing it for several different audiences. I mean, we're writing for teachers who want relevant classroom recommendations and how to teach the student. We're writing for parents who want to have an understanding of their child. And we're writing for other psychologists who are going to pick up the report and flip to the scores and want that interpretation real quick and, you know, understand that stuff. So it is hard to kind of hit on that different level of understanding of psychometrics and whatnot. So it's tricky.
I keep it brief. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't include base rates or any of that stuff in my test reports.
See, I'm a long report writer. I've written reports that, you know, size 10 font, 30 pages.
Oh my God.
And things, but that's not the long. I've seen a 50-page report and that wasn't mine, so that made me feel better that I'm not the only one that writes, you know, long reports. But I do write long reports.
Right.
I try and be comprehensive, but it depends on the evaluation. My ED reports, my AU reports are going to be a lot lengthier than an OHI or an LD eval.
I think I got it up now. Do you guys see this, what I'm looking at? Yes? Okay. So this was a private eval. I just outlined the structure of it that I thought was so helpful to both teachers and parents. We had, you know, a meeting with the psychologist and the parents, and the student was actually there. He was a high school student, and this is how the report was structured. And it was, I have to say, it was like 45 pages. It was really long, but it was written in very regular language, and these were the headings. So it was an overview like you generally see in a school evaluation with the referral concerns and the background information. But then as they described strengths and challenges, they really were very specific about what are the things, how does this student work well, what are his strengths and what are the implications of those strengths on learning, on specific academic subjects, on specific academic tasks, and what gets in the way, what are things that are difficult for this student. Then there was a section linking those strengths and weaknesses to specific academics, and one by one they went through, okay, so what is this, for example, deficit in processing speed, what does that mean in math class in these types of assignments and situations and tasks? So what does that mean in English and social studies? And it was so helpful. It was such a nice report. The learning plan involved, the learning plan was their language for interventions. So there was a whole section on what kinds of things can we do to support growth given this profile of strengths and weaknesses. Then there was a section on accommodations. What kinds of things do we need to change about the environment, about the tasks, about the assignments to help support the student, and then other general recommendations, and that was separated into home, multiple settings, which was mostly about what the student could do and learn. What could he learn about his own profile, psychoeducational knowledge, self-knowledge, self-awareness. That was a big part of it because he was a high school student, so he could be, you know, he was an important part of the team in understanding his learning profile. And then strategies for school, which really spoke to the teachers. What can you do for this child to support growth? I loved about it that it in the report, it never mentioned the term growth mindset or anything like that, but that's how it felt to me. It felt like, here's where we are, how do we get this student, how do we get progress? And it's just such a nice way to look at it. Then there was the summary and medical information about, you know, the team actually of psychologists that ran the evaluations included a psychiatrist, so there was a whole section on medicine and medical interventions, and that was it. It was a great report. So I just compared to this one, it was so much better than a report I've ever written. And so I keep it, and I keep this outline to to help me think about when I'm writing, which is actually very rare right now, but when I do an evaluation, how do I want to present the results? And I want to present them in really practical ways, not just, this student is average or above average or below average. I want to say, what does this profile of strengths and weaknesses say about how he or she can grow? So that is my report template goal. I'm wondering if other people have really good report templates. I mean, mine was good in the sense that it did help me figure out how to write a report. It's a big challenge when you're starting. But I wonder if there are better templates that people use out there.
Yeah. I want to say that, and we'll be quick because we're going to move on to our next topic shortly. But my template, it kind of grew and grew and changed as you learn more and as you add more and get more experience and get better. And I've learned some kind of time-saving strategies with my template, because I think that the template's important for describing, what a WISC tests and what a Connors measures and things like that you shouldn't be retyping every time. I like to take things from the manual. If the manual gives a description of this scale measures this, I would feel uncomfortable rewording things, but then at the same time I'm a little bit nervous about taking things directly from the manual when it's not my wording. So I do have like a statement in my reports that, test descriptions are taken from, whatever manual. And I know that the WJ, the new one, I think has if you want to quote from the manual, you can cite us type of thing. I haven't seen that in a whole lot of other tests. As far as time-saving things, though, using the Control F feature on Microsoft Word, which is Find, you can set up your template so that anytime the child's name is going to be in there, you can put, why, every time the child's name would appear in the template. And then you can use the Control F and the replace function through that to replace everything that says why with Johnny. And the same thing with his, her, he, she type of thing, and that can save a lot, because when you've got scores that, Johnny's, score of this falls in the average range, you can automatically swap all that information out in your template with one click. So, I've got this massive template that I work out of, and I use the Control F function, and it'll say, you've replaced 100 and some instances of why with Johnny. And so that just helps to speed things up, I think. I know that a lot of people use kind of a talk-to-text feature where they're, verbally talking to their computer if you're not a fast typer. But I myself, I generally type. I'm a pretty fast typer, so I can get away with that. But yeah, and then, okay, one other thing that I did want to say is I do like projecting my evaluations if we're having a meeting. That way the whole team can see the tables and the graphs and the things like that. I think that's important so that everyone is on the same page and you're not just reading scores out. You're saying, look at this BASC graph here, and these scores are considered clinically significant, and you can see that nice visual. So that's just my 2 cents.
Looks like we got a comment, Rebecca.
We did. We got a message, and a fellow psych said that he tends to write his reports mostly for other psychs and teachers, so he's definitely working on writing more for the parents, and he felt like that was a good tip. So that was nice to hear. We're all, kind of working on figuring out, what works best for the students, really. I also got a comment. Where did it go? Somebody said, I love finding an awesome psych report that challenges me to look at what is missing from my report. So I totally agree. That was like that report that I hold it as my, as my gold standard now, because it was just so. And I think also a lot of times I go into these meetings and have, sort of my own, as a parent, my parent perspective. This was my child. What would I want to know? And so that report really made me think that if this were my child, this is what I'd want to know. What does it exactly mean that he's average in this and above average in this and, lower average in this? What does it mean and what can we do? How will we inspire growth? So I totally agree with that comment as well.
It's good to have those thoughts in the back of your mind, and please reference our Google Drive. We have a template folder, and there's some good stuff in there that some of us have shared, so feel free to check it out, and we're all in this together to help kids.
I just want to comment now that Anna's cat has made an appearance, and I just
one of them.
I just think this is funny. We had an earlier conversation that Anna's cats tend to, say hello because they love her so much that we're going to call her our crazy cat lady or something, which my mind makes all these little connections. Google the connection between schizophrenia and cats. If anyone's interested, it's very, very interesting read.
I don't know if I want to.
Schizophrenia, and beware.
Okay, so
moment, sorry.
We're going to move on to our little last topic, NASP.
Yeah.
NASP this week in Florida.
That's right. And I have total and complete NASP envy. I would really love to be there, but because I'm not, I did search out this wonderful resource on NASP that I'm going to screen share again. I hope it doesn't do what it did last time.
Practice makes perfect. Well,
can you guys see this? Are you guys seeing this now? I didn't lose you, did I?
Yep, we see.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so if you log on to NASP, and I guess you do have to be a NASP member to log on because they ask you for your member number. But if you are a member of NASP, you can go on to the annual convention tab and look at session handouts, and there are already some really wonderful slide presentations, poster presentations, lots and lots of, as you can see, handouts already. So I'm looking forward and hopeful that there's actually more than when I looked earlier today. So it's a great resource. I hope that they're going to keep these slides up. Obviously, without hearing the conversation, there's a little bit left to be desired, but there was, let me show you this poster session I thought was really interesting. This is comorbid ADHD and anxiety, a study that was run, the methods, results, participants, everything like that. It's a really cool poster session that is helpful about ADHD and anxiety. And there was this, I thought was really great too. This is a test anxiety intervention slides. So there's really some really good stuff out there. I encourage you guys to check it out. It's in the 2015 convention section. Check it out, and hopefully, if it's okay with NASP, we can share some of those slides on the Google Drive. But I guess we'll have to check that out, find out.
Yeah, if anyone's attending NASP and taking notes, and or have presentations, or they're giving a presentation, want to post it in the Google Drive, we do have a NASP 15 folder. So post useful things, post what you guys are seeing. We're sorry we can't be there. I attended last year. It was a lot of fun. It is pricey, so it's not something that I go to every year. If in a perfect world our school districts would all pay for us to, fly there and eat and, sleep and have hotel accommodations and things like that. But I don't think that most of us have that luxury. So NASP is a once every couple years type of thing for me. But and I will say, too, that one of my favorite things about NASP, and this might be because I'm a little bit weird, but I love that that room where all the free stuff is, all the booths. What is it? I'm trying to think what it's called. The exhibit hall, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
and I love going around with my little bag and talking to people and getting my free pens and my free stopwatches and anything that I can get, and I like leave there with this whole bag of goodies, and it just makes me so happy. I don't know why.
I would love that too. Sounds like trick or treat.
There were free cookies last year. Rachel and I went last year, and oh, I ate a lot of those cookies. That was great. Okay, so if you are at NASP and you want to share, feel free to share on our pages. The Facebook page is active, and we welcome comments, and we're all working together to get these resources. So if you ever see anything and you want to add it to our drive, go for it.
Yes. And I want to just give one more plug. Oh, I got a couple of comments here.
I love the comments. Oh, and I wanted to ask everyone too. Do we think that we should read out people's names when we comment, or maybe comment if you if you think that it's good to talk about? Oh, Sally just said on the Facebook, first name type of thing. We don't want to embarrass anybody, but we want to give you your reinforcement for commenting by mentioning you.
Yeah. Well, I have one. Yeah. So I'm not sure if this person wants to be mentioned, so I will just say that somebody asked if the report templates would be available in the Google Drive. They like them, and there are some there already, but I will surely add my little outline. If that's helpful to anyone, I can add that. And yeah, we'd love to add to that section of the Google Drive, so I'll add what I have, and whatever anyone else has would be so helpful as well. Let's see if there are any other comments.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that if you don't want your name mentioned,
yeah, let us know.
Otherwise, we're just assuming that was your fair name.
Well, Facebook is a public page, so their name's on there if they're commenting on our page.
But one of a couple of messages were in the private messages, not on the page, so that's why I'm thinking that maybe it's just I won't mention a name on that one, but yeah, I really hope that this can be our big grand faculty meeting, that we can all be friends and collaborate, and so I'm hoping that we'll get more and more comments over time. I think the conversation can continue. We're obviously all looking at evaluations and reports and interventions. So add to the comments on the Facebook pages, on Twitter, or on in the comments on YouTube too. This video will be posted, and we can continue talking.
Okay, so it's about that time for us to wrap up our meeting. So just random final wrap up from last time we did our podcast, episode 1. We have since posted a WISC-5 little write-up template on the template folder, so check that out. And also Rachel looked into it, and the WISC-5 interactive on the iPad, Rachel, you found out you still have to have the paper pamphlets for the processing speed subtest. So that's something interesting that we just wanted to note, since we're all very intrigued by the interactive versus pencil paper.
Yeah, I had asked the question of, is there 2 separate norms for if the child's taking the test on the iPad versus paper pencil, and so I actually called up Pearson, because I don't have a WISC yet, my district doesn't have it, and asked that question, and they said that no, you basically can't take those subtests on the iPad at this point. It has to be paper pencil. I'm guessing for that very reason that the norms would be different. They did say that at this time they don't have that option, so maybe that's something that will be brought later. But right now it's just paper pencil for those processing speed subtests.
Great, thank you for following up on that. We appreciate it. So our next podcast will be on Sunday, March 1st. We're going to be hopefully doing our podcast on the 1st and 3rd Sunday of the month. So we're trying to do it twice monthly, and we're hoping to connect with you. So please comment and participate if you're able. So it'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, March 1st. So we hope to see you there, and if there's something that you really want to discuss, let us know, and we'll fit it in the future.
Oh, and I just wanted to mention too, one thing we talked about discussing next time were apps for behavioral observations, and we're hoping to have an app creator on as a guest. So we'll keep you posted on that. But I think that's going to work out well. It's a great. I don't want to mention it now in case they don't want to talk about it, but so far I think they'll be joining us next time, and we'll talk about a really great app that Two School Psychs created. So that'll be one of the topics for next time, but we'll look forward to hearing your ideas. What do you guys want to talk about, and what do you want to share?
I think that'll be really good too for other psychs out there that maybe have an idea for an app and don't really know where to go to it. Maybe, you know, our next podcast might give them some ideas of the next step to making that go from an idea to an actual functioning app. So I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.